August 16, 1975. A summer morning in Darby, Pennsylvania. The kind of day that feels ordinary until it isn't. An 8-year-old girl named Gretchen Harrington left her home that morning headed to a church carnival. She was last seen walking down a familiar street, just blocks from her front door. She never arrived. Her body was found that same day, discarded in a quiet patch of trees. And for the next 47 years, no one was ever charged with her murder, until science changed the rules. Gretchen was 8 years old. She lived in a close-knit community just outside Philadelphia, the kind of neighborhood where doors stayed unlocked and children walked to church alone. The kind of community that remembers a child's absence long after the headlines disappear. Pennsylvania State Police opened the investigation immediately. Witnesses were questioned. Evidence was collected. The machinery of justice turned, and then, as it so often does without a clear suspect, it slowed and stopped. The file grew cold. Over the following decades, detectives who inherited the case worked it quietly, pursuing new leads, ruling out suspects, running the evidence through every available tool. But without a name to match to the DNA recovered from that wooded clearing, Gretchen's killer remained a ghost. Here is what most people misunderstand about cold case DNA evidence. Collecting it is only half the battle. For decades, investigators could extract a DNA profile from a crime scene and run it through CODIS, the FBI's national database of convicted offenders. If the killer existed in that system, you had them. But if they were never arrested, never convicted, never swabbed, they were invisible. Gretchen's killer was invisible. CODIS returned nothing, year after year, decade after decade. But by 2020, a new science was quietly reshaping what was possible. It was called investigative genealogy, and it didn't need a convicted offender in any database. It only needed a family tree. The science works like this. DNA extracted from a crime scene is uploaded to a public genealogy database, platforms like GeneMatch or Family Tree DNA, where millions of ordinary people have submitted their own profiles to trace ancestry. The algorithm doesn't search for a perfect match. It searches for partial matches, fragments of shared DNA pointing to a distant relative, a second cousin, a great aunt, someone who uploaded their profile to find where their grandmother came from and had no idea they were connecting a thread to a murder. From those partial matches, forensic genealogists begin building a family tree, working forward through time, cross-referencing birth records, death certificates, marriage licenses, census data, branch by branch, until the tree narrows to a single name. A single individual who lived in the right place at the right time, and whose DNA is consistent with the evidence left at the scene. Pennsylvania State Police partnered with Othram, a Texas-based forensic laboratory specializing in exactly this science. Othram reprocessed the decades-old DNA evidence using sequencing technology that simply didn't exist in 1975, or 1985, or even 2005. The sample was degraded, fragile, worn down by nearly 5 decades of time. But it held. The genealogy search began generating matches, distant relatives, shared DNA segments, the family tree that branched and then, methodically, narrowed. Investigators cross-referenced location, timeline. They ruled out individuals one by one, each eliminated candidate drawing the circle tighter around the one who remained. And then they arrived at a name, Jerry Marcus. Marcus had lived in the Philadelphia area in 1975. His age and profile fit the parameters. His reconstructed DNA profile, built through his living relatives, was consistent with the biological evidence recovered from the scene of Gretchen Harrington's murder. There was one problem. Jerry Marcus had died in 2008. He would never face a courtroom, never be prosecuted. The legal machinery of justice had no mechanism to hold a dead man accountable. But the truth, the answer Gretchen's family had waited 47 years to hear, that was now confirmed. In June of 2022, Pennsylvania State Police held a press conference. They announced that the murder of Gretchen Harrington, a case nearly half a century old, had been solved. Her family, who had spent decades without an answer, finally had a name. What investigative genealogy accomplished here is not magic. It is not coincidence. It is the methodical, patient application of science to the oldest problem in criminal justice. The killer who left no prior record. The ghost who lived freely because the system of his era had no way to reach him. That system has changed. There are an estimated 250,000 unsolved homicides in the United States. Many of them have DNA evidence sitting in evidence lockers right now, waiting for technology that didn't exist when the crime was committed. That technology now exists. The question is not whether science can solve these cases. The question is whether institutions will fund it, prioritize it, act on it. Every strand of DNA is a thread in a map that leads, eventually, to the truth. Gretchen Harrington deserved that truth. And now she has it. If this investigation reached you, subscribe to Savvycrime, where we go beyond the headlines and dissect the evidence others overlook. The cases that the system closed, we reopen. The next one is already waiting.